meeting held in public. Meeting of the council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will advise when it is safe to return. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Thank you. Right, the first item is apologies for absence, with one apology. It's Councillor David Harrison. Everyone else is here, no other apologies. Item 2, declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest on any item on the agenda? I'll take that as a no. Minutes. Confirmation minutes of the meeting of the Wickford Area Committee held on the 6th of February 2025. Can I take anyone got any comments before I take a vote on that? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. No one against. So it's unanimous. Community spotlight. So an opportunity for a local voluntary organisation to inform the area committee of their work. In attendance tonight we have 2 members of the Friends of Wickford Memorial Park, a constituted group of volunteers working with Basden Council, Parks and Countryside Manager and Parks Manager to safeguard and improve the park. So I'll hand over to the 2 representatives to talk to us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kim Oakes. I'm the chair of the Wickford Friends of the Wickford Memorial Park. This is Marion Scott. She's the vice chair. We're going to be talking to you tonight about our work in the park and the project that you're going to be funding. Thank you very much. The Friends of the Wickford Memorial Park was formed in July 19. As Alan said, we're a constituted group with a committee of 12. We hold annual general meetings with a speaker and our accounts are audited. We have a rolling volunteer base of around about 30 regular volunteers, and we network with companies for their community days, schools, clubs, and also the Essex Community Care. We look after socially isolated adults, helping to prepare them for work. We also work in close partnership with the Basden Council Park staff and have an excellent relationship. Both groups wanting a beautiful and looked after park for visitors. The park is over 112 acres, and this includes the 26-acre nature reserve, the Beauchamps Meadow. As the Friends are constituted, we can apply for grants where possible to enhance the park. The first area that we concentrated on in 2019 was the home front garden. We tried to salvage some of the plants, but it soon became apparent that most of them had died. So the whole garden was dug up and replanted. We got a grant from Essex County Council of £4,000, and to supplement that we hold regular fundraising events like quiz nights or easy fundraising to add to our funds. We are lucky that we have a landscape gardener on our committee who has helped design the garden, and also RHS Whitehall came down on the day to help plant. This garden is our jewel in the crown. It is spectacular and it's planted for all seasons. We also look after the War Memorial and have replaced the hedges, as the original box hedges died with box blight. I don't know if you've seen box hedges around, they've gone all white, they've been eaten. So we chose Salvia hot lips, which has proved to be very popular. And we've planted daffodils all around the trees. This year, we was also given the silhouettes from the Remembrance Tommies, which are displayed by the War Memorial. Along with the War Memorial, we also look after the Heroes Arboretum and the Beacon planting. The Heroes Arboretum, Remembrance Avenue and the Beacon are all decorated in November for the Remembrance Parade. We had a team of ladies knitting over 3,000 poppies in 2023. They were sewn onto panels for the beacon, and they're kindly stored for us by the Royal British Legion. We have also planted the Mount Road area with a tractor tyre and spring bulbs, and all the edges are planted with wildflowers. Over the years, we've planted over 35,000 spring bulbs in the park, daffodils, snowdrops, crocuses, chinodoxia and bluebells. One of our biggest projects was the reflection garden. This was 4 years in the planning, designing and planting. We had a grant of £10,000 from the National Lottery to help start with the foundations of the project, and that included silver birch trees, all the plants and 8 wavy benches. Basden Council obviously helped with the digging with the heavy machinery, topsoil, mulch, signage, and supplied the staff to plant the mature trees. We purchased 22 mature cherry trees with another locality fund from Essex County Council of £3,000. All the trees went around the edge of the reflection garden, and they're doing really well. We've also added to the garden with extra trees, plants and bulbs, and we estimate that it must have cost over £20,000 so far. It's a beautiful area, it's peaceful and serene area to reflect. We've also worked in the wildflower area. It's a fenced-in area, and we've planted over 6,000 bluebells under the trees, including wildflowers and shrubs. The Beauchamps Meadow had a budget from Basden Council back in 2018 to develop the area. The Friends have helped plant the initial 3,000 whip trees with the Woodland Trust, and also helped plant the Heritage Community Orchard. There are now over 250 fruit trees in the orchard. The Friends purchased an extra 50 trees this year with our quiz night funding. The trees include apples, plums, cherries, pears and greengages. They're still small at the moment, but we're hoping in a few years we'll be able to hold community picking days. The Friends have also planted a triangle of shrubs for a wildlife habitat and applied for a grant to install 9 benches from the Wickford Town Council, and the Rotary Club gave us the funding for the first one. So now we've got 9 benches around the area, which is really important for disabled people and people with prams and people who can't walk very far. They've got a certain 5 minutes and they can sit down. We've also purchased back boxes and bird boxes via our quiz night funding. We've refurbished 4 benches from Barleylands Recycle Centre via the Basden Council, and they were installed in the Heroes Arboretum and the Crazy Golf. Basden Council staff also installed tyre planters, which we painted and planted in the Crazy Golf. We have painted the Crazy Golf, and this has turned into a yearly job, and we would really like it completely replaced. Maybe another grant? Our next project, which again we have had as an idea for years, is the Stumpery Bog Garden. This was a brainwave of Marion's, and I'm going to pass you over to Marion so she can tell you all about it.
Right, okay. Good evening, everybody. That one or that one?
That's it.
I've got 2 now. Good evening, everybody. What we really want to do is to work with the landscape that is in the park. We've never ever envisaged it as somewhere with nice little tidy beds with little plough on. We want it to really to be as environmentally diverse as it can be, and to use the assets that are in the park. The idea came from, actually, I went on holiday to Borneo, and I don't know if you know the history of Borneo, but there were a lot of Australian and British soldiers, servicemen, who ended up in Borneo as prisoners of the Japanese. And basically they were marched around Borneo, and they stopped in various camps. And where they stopped and people died, the people of Borneo have created these gardens, beautiful little gardens of ferns, under trees, with rocks and logs, all very natural, with paths through. Absolutely stunning. And of course it fits so well into the memorial park, because that's what our park is about. We think it's very special because it is a memorial park. Back in the 1960s, in the flood prevention scheme, they straightened the river that comes through on the boundary, and it used to do a loop, which it doesn't do anymore. But where that loop was, the ground is always wet and boggy. Usually there's a bit of a lake with a few ducks on it in the winter. I think probably there's a spring there, but it's always wet. So we thought, well, and it's sort of set into a bank as well with trees above it. And we really thought this is just such an ideal spot to put some, a stumpery bog garden is basically what we're thinking about. And we talked to Josh about it, didn't we? And his suggestion is that actually what you do is you dig some holes which you fill up with rocks and trees. You can put the roots up if you want, etc. So you make it, and then we will plant ferns and hostas and things like that round it. It's quite important that it ends up as not something that we have to maintain, because we've really become aware, haven't we, that it's all very well creating gardens, but they have to be cared for, they have to be weeded and looked after, and there's only so much you can ask a few volunteers to do, because it is really quite heavy work. So we wanted to create something natural that sat in the environment, that increased the diversity, and really in a few years looked to be as if it has always been there. And again, have a path through it where people could walk, peaceful area, really nice, maybe a bench if we get more money, and really to make it a very different area from what's there already. I don't think we can underestimate how important the park is to all of us, not only the people that volunteer there, but the visitors. It's a very social space. It's welcoming to everybody because it's flat and you can, it's easy to get round. And it's good for all. And it's really important that it's not just a sports field and all the rest of it. It's a place for families to come, for people to come, people to enjoy it. And it's changed such a lot. I was saying, I used to go there with my children years ago, and it was just grass then, and it's improved such a lot, and it gives the volunteers a lot of joy, and it certainly gives the people who come and visit a lot of joy, and we just want to keep on enlarging what we have to offer. Is that it? What? Spring walk, sorry. Kim, she does walks, and we have a few people, Jeff goes around as well, and we take people on walks because it's amazing, there are people who've lived in Wickford all their lives who've never been to the park. They actually live very, very close by, but they don't go to the park, which is a great pity, or maybe they haven't been for 30 years, etc. They certainly don't know what it's like now. So Kim organises walks, which we would like to invite you on the 12th of 5th. It's a good job I've got a prompt, isn't it? 5th of April, 11:30, and we just assembled by the memorial, and Jeff White gives a bit of a chat about the history and why the park is there, how it was formed, etc. And then please wear suitable footwear. And then, you don't have to go all the way round if you don't want to. If you want to, we can. The cafe is there. We have this lovely little memorial cafe now. We've got new people in it. They are really working hard to make it into a welcoming space, and it's really doing very well, which we're delighted to see, because it is really integral to everything. A sausage sandwich is a necessity really when you've been weeding and stuff like that. So please, all of you, you're very welcome to come and join us on the walk and learn more about the park if you haven't been there. And I'm sure Kim will take in the area that we plan to put the garden in. Yeah. And any suggestions are very, very welcome.
Thank you very much. Have we got any questions for Kim and Marion? Councillor Jeffrey?
I just wanted to thank the Friends of the Memorial Park. I did go on one of your walks just before you started to do some of the more major works. And as I said at the last area committee, I hadn't noticed I think it's the Jubilee Gardens on the bit on the other part of the map. I think it's Brock Hill, is it? No, not Brock Hill. There's a road there, but as you come into the park from Memorial Approach, it's on the right. So I've was it
Mount Road.
Mount Road, sorry, yeah. And I didn't know that was there until I'd seen it, and I think those walks are really sort of useful. So I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work, and hopefully we can bring as much investment forward for that park as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brockman?
I'd like to thank the Friends of the Memorial for all the hard work they've done, and just a personal thank you. I've spent a lot of time over there the last few months in the reflection area, so for me, I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brockman. Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, just one thing that I would have liked mentioned on the leaflet really is about the cricket and football pitches that are over there. There's lots of football and cricket that goes on over there. It'd be nice to have that on the leaflet as well. But yeah.
We did that because is that us?
Yeah, no, I understand, but yeah, it's just on the map, for example. It'd be nice to show where the football and cricket is, but yeah, it's just me. But yeah, appreciate all the work you do over there, and yeah, I love it over there. I go over there quite a lot and play tennis over there sometimes in the summer. So yeah, very good. Well done.
Councillor Myers?
Thank you, Chair. One thing you forgot to mention was, of course, the animal tree carvings and the tour that you do of those. I know they're on the map, but I didn't mention them this evening. So I just thought I'd like to point out that you do a little tour or find where they are, and people can go and see the amazing carvings that have been done across the park as well, where people can find all different sorts of animals have been carved. I can't remember the name of the artist who done them. If you could remind me.
Sorry, it was Essex wood carving. It was just a chap. I can't remember his name now. I could look it up for you, Alex.
No, that's fine. But a tremendous job he's done, and how very talented that they are. How they've done those. I know there was a bit of vandalism last year, wasn't there, with a couple of points of those, but I think they all stand the test of time, and they're very interesting focal points across the Memorial Park for younger people as well to go and view.
We would like to add to them actually, because we've got 5. We didn't have enough money. It always comes down to money, sadly, but we didn't have enough money to do all we wanted. And we really would like to have a few more, because we wanted to make it educational for the children, really, to be able to say, right, you see these animals in the park. We wanted some posts, didn't we, with a QR code on, so that you can scan it and it will give you all the information about that animal. So actually that project isn't completed yet, and we will go back to it at a later date.
Can we get that?
Yes. Where did we get the money from for that? It was £5 grand, wasn't it? Yeah.
Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies, thank you very much for coming and giving us your presentation this evening. I found it very interesting. But one thing I do like very much is your leaflet. I think for a small leaflet, it really does give out an enormous amount of work and effort and beauty that you've produced over all the years. So congratulations to that, because it looks like it. Is this the leaflet that you produced, or did the council do it for you?
We designed. Is that? Yes. We designed it, but the council printed it for us with their communication budget. So, thank you.
It was the son, actually, one of our members. He did it, didn't he? He just put it all together for us. So,
But normally leaflets, they don't say as much as what this does, and it just shows you the beauty of the work that you've put into it over the years. And just keep up the good work. If we can get along next Saturday or the Saturday after, hopefully we will, and we can see for ourselves. Let's hope you have a good day and the weather's fine for you. Thank you.
Councillor Myers.
Just as a point, obviously I look through these things to make sure we're being live streamed, but I can't see this particular meeting on the YouTube feed, or whether or not we're actually being live streamed to the public. Is it because of the date that was originally put down, and we had to move the date from early on in March?
No, I can check that now.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I would just like to thank you for coming, giving us your speech. It was very, very interesting. I remember the first time I went to the Memorial Park. It was the district cross country in the early 70s when I was at Billericay School. So I've been going there a long, long time. But yeah, I remember that, and it was started and finished at Beauchamp School at the time. So yeah, it's moved on along a lot since then. So thank you very much for coming. And if you want to leave, you can, or if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to. Thank you. Thank you again. Give them 5 minutes just to pack up. Thank you, Kim. Share that, yeah, so, yeah, okay. Right, so we'll move on to funding matters for consideration. We've got 6 funding considerations today, and the first one is a 6,000 funding for Wickford Town Football Club towards a refurbishment of the clubhouse facilities from the Believe in Basildon Capital Fund. I'll look it up. Wickford Town Football Club have been part of the community since 1969, providing football for children aged 5 through to adults. The club have grown over the years and are now proud to have over 400 children at the club, approximately 40 teams. The club is run by volunteers and are a registered charity. The club support for many community events, including My Otis Mind, Children's Mental Health Education, and the club are requesting £6,000 funding towards a total facility to upgrade cost of £13,000 for their kitchen stroke catering facilities. So has anyone got any comments on this? No comments, so we'll go on. Does everyone agree that we can give £6,000 from the Believe in Basildon Fund to Wickford Town Football Club? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. So the second one is a 3,300 investment for the purchase and installation of a defibrillator at the Wick Pavilion from the Believe in Basildon Fund. This is at the Wick. This is on the Wick ward, Park ward. It's in the Wick Country Park. Located in the heart of the Wick Community Centre. No, that's the wrong one. A 3,300 investment to purchase and installation of a defibrillator at the Wick Pavilion at the Wick Country Park from the Wickford Believe in Basildon Fund. Has anyone got any comments on that?
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the Area Committee for bringing this investment forward. I've been working with Playdays Nursery for a number of years, and I think for them to offer to maintain the defibrillator at their own expense, obviously after our initial investment, is quite something in their commitment to the local area. And plus it'll be a good asset for the Wick Country Park. So I just think, you know, the more access we can have for defibrillators across the town, the better really. But I don't know, for officers' sake, I just want to seek clarification. It will just be on the outside of the building. Yeah, okay, great. And I did speak to the owners of Playdays Nursery, and they wanted to thank the Area Committee for bringing this forward as well, and they look forward to seeing it installed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Any other comments? Councillor Myers?
Just briefly, all for it, absolutely. I think the defibrillator costs across the borough need to, more need to be installed. I remember I had a question to a leader a couple of council meetings ago about coverage across our borough, and which is something that is very important to people, especially in open spaces. I really just only have a question about cost, and we see it in the report where it's £3,300 for purchase and installation, but is there any revenue in that? Because the defibrillator that we've got in the community centre at Wickford does not cost £3,300. So I'm just interested about where that actual costing came from. I mean, I'm all for putting it there. I just want to know where the fundings, or where the costings have come from, and whether or not there's any revenue going forwards to put in for, the pads expire after a certain number of years and such. And what's the funding guarantee on this?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, just to clarify, these costings were from the British Heart Foundation, and they do include replacement batteries, replacement pads to enable the longevity of it. So it's not just for the defibrillator, because we have factored in some of the maintenance of that. So if it does get used, you may be aware that obviously you need to change the pads on a regular basis, and I think the battery life is usually between 3 and 5 years, and obviously we've factored the replacement battery into those costings as well. I've been working with our parks team, and they will be working with the nursery to make sure that they're aware about the replacement pads, the replacement batteries, etc. And a maintenance ownership agreement will be put into place as well. So both parties will know exactly where they stand moving forward.
Is that okay, Councillor Myers? Okay, yeah. Anyone else to make any comment? No? No, I'd just like to add that, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Someone who's had heart surgery himself, so I fully support any defibrillator anywhere because they're so vital. And I agree with what Councillor Myers says. We probably haven't got enough of a coverage in the whole borough as such. So, yeah, anyone's will always get my support wherever they are. So, yes, so if we can take a vote on that then. All those in favour, please show. That's passed. So that's the second part of the the third one is a £6,000 funding award to the Wick Community Centre towards the cost of a boiler refurbishment from the Believe in Basildon Fund. Refurbishment, I'll get me. A £6,000 funding towards the Wick Community Centre towards the cost of a boiler refurbishment. Located in the heart of the Wick Community Centre offers members and visitors the opportunity to engage with other members from within the community whilst taking part in various activities and or events which are held throughout the year. The Wick Community Centre during the week provides Little Tots Nursery, Mini Athletics, HSD School of Dance, Yoga, Over 55s Club, Move It or Lose It, Over 50s exercise classes, karate, adult training classes, jogs, amongst various other things. The centre has replaced 2 of the 3 boilers within a 14-year period, and now all three need replacing. The total cost for the boiler refurbishment is £8,589.20, excluding VAT. They are asking the Wickford Area Committee for £6,000 towards the cost of the boiler refurbishment. Has anyone got any comments on that? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this investment into the Wick Community Centre. It's a shame Councillor Ferguson and his colleagues removed it before when they took office. So I think, you know, just as you've gone over to Little Tots Nursery, Mini Athletic and the Over 55s Club, I think it's, you know, the boiler is actually an essential part of keeping the building running, and obviously not forgetting the vaccinations during the pandemic, which helped us get out of the lockdown restrictions. So, Chairman, I think I actually want to move an amendment. We've said here that the total cost of refurbishment is £8,589.20, excluding VAT, but actually I think this committee, as a gesture of goodwill, should amend that sum to be £10,500.
I second that, Chairman.
Have we got any comments on the amendment? Councillor Brockman.
I'm with George on this one. I agree with him. And I will tell you that there are actually more inoculations or COVID vaccinations going on next week, because I'm having one. So, but what I'd like to know is why 10,500? Can you explain for me, please?
Well, 8,580. So if you had the VAT on, it comes to 10,400 and some odd change. So I thought 10,500, at least we've got the buffer there to make sure that they get the funding.
Most companies can claim back their VAT, and surely the Wick Community Centre...
Not community association.
Not on a community, you can't. Right, okay, thanks for clarification, thank you.
Councillor Sargent.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to second George's amendment. Very, very keen on community associations and the work they do, particularly the Wick Centre. I've known of those people for a number of years, and as George has said, it's absolutely vital to have a good heating system, because otherwise it lets people down. So totally happy to go with the cost of the equipment and the VAT. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to say something?
No.
Just to clarify, obviously, the funding that will be given, that could be the ceiling, but obviously the funding will be given will be in relation to the invoice of how much it actually costs. Yeah.
It's just that if we allocate it, excuse me, So if we allocate this money, that means that they'll have it there so that they can get what they need, the right boiler, so that they're not sort of coming back. That's the thing, because it's better to, as we've said before, give too much and then it's handed back so that they get the support they need.
Councillor Myers.
Yeah, thank you. Following on from that, I just wanted to ask the officer a question. Of course, this is funding to the Wick Community Association, and as part of the Wickford Community Association, I'm very well aware that of hiring halls out and things is not a VAT-able business, so therefore you can't claim back VAT on charities when you're predominantly using halls for hire. So my question would be, if a council actually directly funded this, would the council be able to to provide a VAT as a landlord of the building to fund it instead?
Yeah, Councillor, that's not normal practice for us. Obviously, it's a lease building, so you're right. Whilst the building might technically be by the council's at the end of the lease, for the purpose of the lease, it's theirs. So it wouldn't be for the council to spend its to use its funding in that way. It's for the community association to fund that and direct, I'm afraid.
that's a bit of backwards thinking there, because we can reduce the amount, we can pay the grant, but of course the council can claim back the VAT or when it's improving its stock. And of course with the lease arrangements with certain parts of the buildings, you wouldn't consider that something like boilers and fully insured buildings, as I assume they are, with breakdowns would have to claim on their insurance. I would just assume that if we gave the funding to the council itself to install the boilers, that they would then be able to claim back the VAT rather than giving the money to the community association, who wouldn't be able to claim back the VAT, so therefore saving some money.
I mean, all I can say is that that's not the practice we obviously can't go and install something on someone else's property, and under the basis that under the lease it's their property for that period of time, so we wouldn't have the right to go and do that even.
With bits and bobs with such as boilers, I mean, I've read through our lease at the Community Association, and of course it's a repair and return. But when it's a particularly safety issue and everything else, the council demands that they send their employers in to do the work. So I'm assuming that the issue here is that their boilers are going to be packing up, and therefore with no heat, they can't have the NHS staff, they can't have the kids and toddlers, etc., etc. In terms of boiler replacements, I feel like that's something that the council should be doing with the funding that we've given, and then claim the VAT back, because then we've got a bit more money to spend on this area committee going forwards. Whether or not you can take it up with legal later on and give us an answer later is entirely up to you.
Yeah, it's a lease question, and I don't obviously know the lease by heart, councillor, so we have to look at the lease as to whose responsibility that is. I think that's where it lies, I think.
Can I just say that, can we look into this, and perhaps if we say that if the funding is, obviously I agree with Councillor Jeffrey that we could pay for it all. Just the 6,000 is what they asked for, so that's why it's on the list at that. But if we look into the VAT situation, and we agree tonight to go up to 10,500 and not say 10,500, that way, if it comes back that we can pay the VAT, we can save, as Councillor Myers says, we can save the area committee 20% of it.
Thanks, Jim. It was more so that this is obviously an outstanding question, and for me, I hope that the Wick Community Centre will be able to get on and conduct the repair. So whilst in the background, the legal is being sort of clarified, at least the money's there for the 10,500, and then if anything comes back, we can look at that again. But I think it's just a gesture of goodwill to say we want to fund everything. I mean, I host my surgeries in there, so it'd be nice and warm in the winter. So it's just making sure that they've got the support they need. So, yeah.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chairman. Community associations running council buildings, because that's what we actually do, saves the council quite a high sum of money, and also saves a lot of people some of money, because we give reduced rates and you know, as well as providing excellent facility and services to our communities and beyond. And it just seems rather unfair that community associations, in this predicament at least, have to pay for the you know, for the VAT, because we all do. And I've over the years I've got enormous amount of grants, and it's the VAT that actually kills you, especially if those grants are pretty high. So is the VAT. I mean, I was at a conference, the Community Association conference, which was attended by the Honourable Angela Smith, and I did ask her at that conference, would she look into, or would she ask the government, because the government was in there at the time, would she ask the government to stop or look into community associations paying VAT, because there's so many people that can claim it back, but not community associations. And considering, you know, the leases that the council are now putting onto community associations, they're all repairing leases. It's just the structure. And therefore, that's, you know, that burden is passed on to that community association. And I think that in this instance, if they are council buildings, I'm hoping that if it isn't in, that something can be written into a lease, that if somebody, you know, or some community association is looking to funding, and there's not that many, at least they have a little bit of freedom of not paying the VAT, so that they can get the full extent, because those boilers do last for a long time, and I'm really pleased that we are able to, you know, to support them in this manner. And it really would help, because what is 20% of 10,000? No, I know, but I mean that's the you know, that's the savings that they would make. But we leave it to the officer to ask the question, and maybe the cabinet member would you know, look at VAT on community associations.
Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I thank all members for contributing to the debate tonight. It serves the purpose of why the area committees were able to be set up in the first place, enabling local ward councillors to be able to deliver and put forward funding proposals for the areas that they know best, the areas that they care about, and are able actually to see enacted. So I do think it's slightly disingenuous from Councillor Jeffrey to be able to make a point that I've stopped funding. This is the first detailed proposal I've seen this evening, and I'm pleased that funding has been enabled by this administration to be able to allow ward councillors of all parties to be able to support their residents in the way that they know best. So I just wanted to put that on record. On the specifics of what we've been speaking about tonight, many of those relate to legal issues that we're not able to either make a decision on here in this meeting, but also the appropriateness around discussing that within this forum as well. There is a task and finish group that's been set up into community centre leases. That was something that I asked at the Overview and Scrutiny Commission a month ago to be established. There is representatives from all parties. It will be meeting over the coming weeks. It's to be chaired by Councillor Barnes, and I think this would be a very valuable discussion and a piece for all members to be able to discuss in the appropriate way.
Councillor Sargent?
That's a good idea. I'm really pleased that is going on. Can that be put forward to this committee? Because I'm not sure if any of us are on that task and finish group. I understand it's pretty small. So, and not only that, there are some of us that have been attached to community associations for some time that might be able to give it some valuable information. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm on that task and finish group, so if you send me an email with the details, I'll make sure it's good. Yeah, I know, but if you send me an email with details on it, I'll make sure it gets included. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You've said exactly that I was going to. The representation of the committee is decided by party leaders. I'm not party to the discussions that have taken place within your group. I'm sure your party leader has put forward a representative, but I think the importance of task and finish groups is that the representative is there as a member of the groups to be able to put forward, to listen to their group members, to be able to bring forward ideas for discussion, and that's exactly what we'll do.
So we've got Councillor Jeffrey's amendment supported by Councillor Sargent. So does everyone agree that we allocate 10,500 to the Wick Community Centre for a refurbishment of the boiler? Councillor Sargent? Oh, you're voting, yeah? Okay, all those in favour, please show. Okay, so that's passed. Bit quick for me there. Right. The next one is item number 4, £999 investment for the purchase and installation of lighting on Neverton Park Pathway for the Believe in Basildon Fund. This is I attended this with Councillor Myers and some officers, and this is the starting point. The pathway from Keats Way to the Neverton Centre is very dark of a night. There's some trees in the way, so this is the first light is to put a light on. So what we're doing is replacing a light with one stanchion with two stanchions, and we're going to have a light pointing towards the pathway. So we're hopefully further down the line we'll get more lights so that we light the whole pathway up. But we've got to be careful as well because it's right behind the Eve Bell Centre, and apparently they've got dementia patients on that side of the building. So this is the best way we can do it. So it was a collaboration really between myself and Councillor Myers and the officers. So it's a £999 investment for the purchase and installation of a light on Neverton Park Pathway from the Believe in Basildon Fund. It will be installed on a lamppost near the Neverton Centre where the lighting is poor on a regular used footpath. The adaptation would include a double arm to the added light to increase the lighting on the footpath area between Neverton Park footpath and Keats Way. The cost includes the double arm and installation. Any comments on this, please? Councillor Myers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, of course, since I was first elected in 2022, there's obviously been some issues down that particular park in the winter with people walking down and perhaps having to detour down Neverton Road to reach either the community centre or for them to walk home down Keats Way or towards Keats Way down the alleyway. Now, of course, a lot of the major problems around this is about funding because it's if you wanted to put some street lights, it's probably about 100 metres worth of trunking, which will cost near enough just over £100,000. We at the meeting that I had with Councillor Ball with the officers, there is meant to be a survey being done for potentially a solar powered street light to be put into Neverton Park itself, away from the trees, which is south facing, so therefore should have a majority of sunlight, hopefully throughout the time and enough. So there is a study going to be done to deem its suitability. So this is its first iteration of something which I believe will be a very important thing for the residents who use that footpath on a nightly basis. It's not just, in the winter, of course, it gets dark at 4 o'clock. People come home from the care home that's there. They come home from the town centre. They walk down there. It's pitch black. So it's important that we try to alleviate these issues, and hopefully with good results from the light study, we can then put further lights across the park in order to alleviate those issues. But this is just the first step of actually shining a light onto the pathway, literally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Anyone else got anything? Any comments? No. So can we take a vote on that? A 999, funny amount, investment in the purchase or installation of a light.
I thought it was a random amount, but
No. Yeah, of a purchase of a light on Neverton Park Pathway, a double arm to start the process of lighting up the pathway between Keats Way and the Neverton Centre. All those in favour, please show. Right, so that's passed. Right, we're now on to 4,270 investment for the replacement of Coppice Lane pond fencing and pathway improvements from the Believe in Basildon Fund at Note Bridge. Right, this is right by the community centre. I know it well. Any comments?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is a very well regarded pond by the local community and beyond, as you've said yourself. You know it well. For years, the community, because my community association once used to do much of the work there, and we got many grants from the Veolia Trust. And fortunately, over the years, we've had more and more volunteers come forward and be able to do a bit of maintenance with support of officers, because obviously they know the yearly cycle of the newts. Well, not you get newts in a pond, but all the frogs and all that type of thing. And it's a real beauty spot. It's got three benches round there, and like most communities, people like to sit around and chat and just watch the world go past. And recently we have had a new group set up there, and they've become another one of Basildon's Friends of. And I'm very, very much in support of that. And this is such a vital project, because the fencing around the islands, and we have a little plank where the ducks can walk up to the island. Well, because that fencing, because it's got wire and wooden wire, they get their necks or their feet caught in it. So this is money that will be well spent improving that fencing, and also the pathway around, because it really does need doing now. So I am totally supportive, and thank the council for supporting the Friends of, because they together they work, as you know, all over the borough extremely well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else got anything to say? Councillor Myers?
Yeah, which is following on from Councillor Sargent, is obviously it's a very well used recreation pond. There's a walkway that goes all the way round where people can walk, and a lot of it is very muddy at the moment, and has been for some time. There are issues around all year mud where people can't walk around all the time, and there's been issues around the fencing in terms of the wildlife getting hurt, and there's been chances across the last few years to improve it, and some improvements have been made, but for a full replacement of where it is very important to protect the wildlife that's there, and to protect and it'll be in keeping with the conservation area as well, which is vitally important. I think that this is a very, very good project, something that we should all support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Anyone else? I would just like to say that, as obviously I know it very well, it's right opposite the community centre, and I take my wife to Slimming World at that. So I did get out the other week. Well, I took her and had a nose round, so I do know it quite well. So yes, I will be supporting this project. If we have no more comments, can we take a vote? All those in favour, please show. Cool, we are good tonight, aren't we? Okay, that's passed. We have one last funding, and it's a £2,000 funding award to the Friends of Oak Bridge for the purchase and installation of an information board from the Wickford Believing Basildon Area Revenue Fund. Do we have any comments on this? Councillor Brockman.
Right, okay, so as mindful as I would be to support this, the problem that I've got is the fact that the Wickford Town Council fund their own notice boards, Shotgate Parish Council fund their own notice boards, and there's a lot of the other parishes and town councils do. So, with regret, I believe that this should not be funded by us. It should go to the local town council or parish council to fund it. And I'm saddened to say that, but I think it should be a standard. If you're going to do it in one area, you've got to do it in all areas. So for me, I'm going to vote against it, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Brockman. Councillor Myers?
Yeah, thank you. I respectfully disagree with Councillor Brockman on this point. Wickford Town Council made their own decision to fund notice boards, to fund their own town council projects and what they were doing. The Friends of the Note Bridge group are only asking, as a newly constituted group, for the council to fund a couple of notice boards for what they're doing rather than what the parish council is doing. So I think it is completely different to that. The parish council itself, I believe, Terry, has its own notice boards. They have their own notice boards where they put up what the parishes does. This is about what the Friends of Note Bridge group are doing, not just around the Coppice Lane Pond, but also at the Note Bridge Nature Reserve as well. So it's not a town council similarity, because the town council is promoting its meetings, it's promoting its work, it's promoting other sort of opportunities across the town. But this particular one is designated for the Friends of Note Bridge to advertise the wildlife that's around the duck pond and the wildlife that is going to be over at the nature reserve, and the activities that they get on with, such as the Note Bridge litter pickers, who did a very sterling job last Sunday.
Funded by the parish.
Councillor Sargent, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think that's a very short-sighted view. The Parish Council met last night. I declare an interest. I'm a member of Notebridge Parish Council, and there was quite a few thousands of pounds that, well, a number of thousands of pounds that will be spent on Notebridge. And parish councils have the freedom. They are local authorities in their own right, and they have the freedom for the people that sit on them and give their time. We don't get paid, we don't get expenses, we just like doing what we're doing and working with the community, and we work very closely with all our community groups. We also work, this is Parish Council, with the Borough Council, and we have met them in the middle with many projects over at Notebridge. So we are not afraid of putting our hands in our pocket, but this is something that the Friends of Notebridge, as Councillor Myers has said, has wanted to do off of their own back, is knowing about this fund. It's open to the public, so that's whom they've gone to. We funded benches and planters last night in partnership with those as well for the work that they are going to do. So it's silly to make comments where you don't know anything about, but I mean, fortunately, it will all be recorded in the minutes, and everybody will be able to see not just our parish council, but the good works of every town and parish council over the borough. But we are not there to service anybody else, only the communities that live there, and pay the precept to go with it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Councillor Jeffrey, did you want to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. I think if we're saying we're not going to support the sign, I was under the impression that it was for just those areas in particular. I defer to my colleagues who represent that area. I just think if we're going to say no, I would be very reluctant to start a precedent where, if, say, the Friends of the Wick Country Park or the Friends of the Memorial Park say we would like information boards similar, and then we start saying no and say, hold on, talk to the town council. So either we go all the way, or I think we just do it as a gesture of goodwill and say, we're going to support you from the start because we want to have people volunteering in the borough. So I just think, you know, unless we're going to start ripping out the notice board in the Wick Country Park and other places, then I think we should just get this through, and then obviously anything else. Of course, they'll be working with Notebridge Parish Council from the start, but I just think, you know, this is our chance to kickstart everything and show off their good work. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Brockman?
Okay, so I've been just royally slapped I mean, I don't mind that because I like to be corrected, and I thank you for that. However, no, it's right. It's, you know, what's right's right. So what I'm going to ask is, Councillor Sargent, will you guarantee me that the notice board that we fund will not be used for any parish council leaflets or any advertising at all? And are you part of the Friends of the Notebridge what's it thingy? There you go.
I wish I had the time. I wish I had the time, but I don't. But I fully support them. It's not that kind of notice board. Maybe the officer would like to explain what type of notice board it is. It's not, the parish council has its own notice board where it displays everything, as does the community association, but this is, as Councillor Jeffries has said, is an information board about the wildlife within that area.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I can confirm that the notice board will be used to educate, let local people know what's going on, when the next wildlife groups are, and any general information actually about the pond and the surrounding area.
Yep, and then I change my mind. I reverse back to original. I will support it.
Well done.
Okay.
I tend to agree with you. My questions are the same as yours, and I've changed my mind as well. So I come into this questioning the notice board, but that's what it's all about. So, Councillor Myers.
Yeah, just to point out that it's sort of a similar notice board to those that are at Riverside Walk and areas like that. You know, it explained about what the nature is over there and the activities that you can do and how long the walk is around the pond and etc. So it's nothing to do with the parish council or anything else.
Councillor Hammond.
Yeah, just thinking that it might be an idea in future if we did to basically describe these sorts of things as information boards and notice boards where you can actually open them and put different notices in. Describe that as a notice board, just so we can differentiate between the two, because it is a bit confusing. If you're told notice board, I thought like you did, notice board where you open it up and you put notices in there. It's not, it's more an information board with permanent information. So.
Yeah.
It does say that, Chairman, on the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, information board.
Yeah, it does say information board. You're quite right. Yeah. So, have we got any other speakers on this? No. Right. All those in favour, please show. Just goes to show people can change their mind. So, yeah. Right, so now we've finished all the funding considerations, so everything has been passed. The next one we got, the communities manager will give us a short update on Wickford Station rebuild. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is received from Alan Neville from Greater Anglia. So I'll read it as he sent it. So, now that the news has been announced about the rebuild of the station, my colleagues and I will be planning stakeholder sessions in the town. Once we have firm knowledge of the timelines of this project, we are aiming to be able to confirm project timescales later this spring once a formal programme has been agreed with the contractor.
Thank you for that. Councillor Myers.
Thank you. What a long-going saga this has been. And since 2019, when the station itself was knocked down to order to increase the size of the platforms to accommodate the new trains, which do run much more smoothly than the old trains do, and they're much more comfortable, but there was longer carriages, unfortunately. I know a lot of people maybe listening may say that, oh, it was a beautifully brick-built building, but railways have their own say over their premises under the Transport Act, so there's not a lot of things that can be done about that. Unfortunately, of course, COVID hit and the government allowed train companies to use capital funding for revenue to keep the trains running, which meant that the funding that was initially agreed to rebuild the station was used to fund the services to get key workers to work. Now, it's been a pressing time over the last couple of years or so to try to get the funding and everything else, and I was pleased to hear from our MP in Wickford, Mark Francois, who met with Hugh Merriman, the Transport Minister, to get £4 million towards the station rebuild, and a signed letter and everything else. And it's been pleasing to see that has been continued under this Labour government, and also from Greater Anglia, who frankly have been very slow on the take-up of the funding that was originally agreed at the start of last year. Why they were sitting on it for so long, I don't know. The tenders were meant to be agreed in sort of a late summer, August time to go out, and then decisions to be made in November. Then we only found out in late February that they'd been agreed by the current construction workers. I find Greater Anglia's statement a bit interesting because there is already preliminary work going on over there. There has been a lot of drilling for the utilities. There's been a lot of work in terms of clearing land behind some of the bits of the hoardings that aren't being used. So I find it a bit confusing about that answer from Greater Anglia. I would like to know when that was written, if I may, after I finished to the officer, when that statement was received, because obviously a lot of work has taken place since. It's important to realise that Wickford's identity of having a mainline train station as a major hub of commuting and leisure has always been paramount across our town. And having demountable sheds, buildings, whatever you want to call them, with a partial ticket office has been an eyesore for many residents who use the train station, who travel to London on good salaries to go into the city to work and then come home with. It's unfortunate that the funding doesn't include improvement works to the bridge. That is unfortunate, but it is about the rebuild of the station. Hopefully there is something that can be done in the future about that. I know, after speaking to some colleagues who I know work in the railway industry, there isn't enough room there to put lifts in as it stands, but it's important that something is now being done, and that something residents, design is something that people can either agree with or disagree with. Everyone has their own personal taste on design, but at least it's going to be a permanent building rather than a demountable, what looks like a construction site kind of type of building. And we should be thankful that something is now finally being done there and work is beginning. And of course our ticket offices are remaining, which is brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Just one thing, could we have I suspect that you're recording from the back there. Could you stop? Could you please stop? I've been advised by the officer you've got to stop. No, it's not allowed to do it, is it? No. No. Can you not record, please?
By the way, your live feed is not working. There's quite a lot of people who want to watch.
Yeah, we're aware of that. Yeah.
It will be put up in the morning.
Sorry?
It will be put up in the morning.
It'll be put up in the morning. I've been reliably informed it'll be put up in the morning. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Toombs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, Councillor, I'll receive that information on the 12th of March. That answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other? Councillor Jeffrey?
Thanks, Chairman. If possible, could the officer circulate the full statement, written statement, so at least we have it for our records, even if it goes to all of us. I'm not going to hold a paper statement. So, and I think this is actually long overdue, and something I've made the point to Greater Anglia and Network Rail, at least whilst we had the bus and rail forum, is that they've not adequately communicated with Wickford residents or those who use the station on progress. That's one of my main issues, is that they have felt that they do not need to communicate with people who pay the fares to go to and from London. I mean, the season ticket is not cheap. It's over £5,000. So if you're paying that, you would expect someone to just send you a note or put up a notice to say about what's happening. And I think just as well, if you're having investors come down from London, we need to show off the best of the town, and Greater Anglia have played their part in trying to dissuade people, and that I find is really unfortunate. Yeah. And I know we've done a lot from my Conservative colleagues, I'm sure others, and I just think it was a whole group effort. I know Mark Francois has done it as well, and constituents who I know have been very forceful with the Department of Transport, and I just think that hopefully from a united voice here that we can say that you have to communicate much better with Wickford, and actually when you're going to do things, you do them as you promise, because we were expecting this a number of years ago. So as I say, I just want to put on record, and hopefully other councillors will endorse my thanks to Mark Francois, residents and others to their efforts to bring this station back to Wickford.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd buy two Penrith. I agree, it's been going on, what's 2009, 6 years now, it's a long while. And Mark Francois has been quite vocal, I'll give him that. He has been very vocal. What I will dispute is the trains are smoother, but more comfortable. I don't know about that. But yeah, they are. I mean, I don't commute anymore, but I used to commute, and it seemed like a sledgehammer to crack a nut when they did knock it down. But I accept that they're now 5 coach trains units rather than 4, so it needs to be done. But what we've got now at Wickford is a redundant platform on the, if you like, the far side from where the trains come in, because they can't now, because they're longer. That platform wasn't made any longer, so we've actually, I don't know if that's 4 or 1 that side, but we've lost a platform now. So there is, but I suppose a new station is the priority first of all. But we have lost a platform. But yeah, as I said, they're smoother, but whether they're more comfortable, I'll dispute that. Yeah. Has anyone else got anything to say? You're not recording, no? No, I'm on my phone. Okay. Just updating. Okay, it's fair enough. That's the update from the station rebuild, and we should get something from Greater Anglia soon. Right, now we're on to the Wickford car park charges. I've spent a long time on this, and I've got something to move, so if I could get the officer to dish them out, it's a motion to move on this.
Thank you.
I'll give everyone 5 minutes to read it. Time to resume. Can you go? Councillor Myers, can you go and get your group, please? Ring the bell. Yeah. Right, we'll resume now. Assume everyone's ready. Would anyone like to comment on the motion?
Do you want to read out?
Indicate you'd like to talk on the motion? No, I was just confirming. Oh, right, no. So there's no one talking on the motion. So basically, I've spoke to the monitoring officer today, and she said we cannot bring this forward tonight, which is why the third paragraph's there. So we've got to arrange another meeting. If everyone agrees, shall we? If no one's going to speak, shall we vote on it?
Chair, do you want to read out what you're...
Oh, right, I've got to read it out.
Thank you.
Apparently I've got to read it out. That Wickford Area Committee to pay for 2 hours free parking on Saturdays and Sundays for the 25-26 municipal year at a cost of £15,000 taken from the revenue accounts and split evenly between the 3 wards. This is for the Wickford car parks, obviously, the main and the Ladygate. Also that the area committee funds short-term parking within the Ladygate car park for up to £4,500 from the revenue accounts, again split evenly between the 3 wards. This is subject to this coming to the next meeting of the Wickford Area Committee in a funding consideration report for deliberation by the committee. Has anyone got any comments?
I totally disagree with this coming to the next meeting, and I totally disagree with the area committee having to pay for parking, something which Basildon Council should be paying for. This is going to take nearly £20,000 per year from the Wickford Area Committee budget. And that is wrong, because it will take quite a considerable sum of money from ordinary residents. I don't disagree with any resident that is opposing what Basildon Council does. In fact, I'm very much supporting them, and I certainly don't agree what the administration has done or are going to do to stop the free car parking in Wickford and Billericay. I think it's absolutely outrageous, and I think it is equally outrageous to bring it to this committee expecting us to take £20,000 almost from per year from our budget.
Thank you. If you read it, it says for the 25-26 municipal year, so we're only talking about 1 year at the moment. So just to correct you, it's not per year. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Councillor Brockman?
I somewhat agree with Terry, Councillor Sargent, but however I want to just state that not on this committee of how many of us, there's not one member of the administration on this committee. So we've got the upper hand, all of us, and we're the ones who should support this by looking after our residents, just us. And that's what I'm going to vote for our residents. Whether or not it comes out of what money it comes from, that's a different argument. We can fight that another day. Let's just get this one bit dealt with first.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, something that I wanted to check really is with the leader from Basildon Council. Oh, sorry. The leader of Basildon Borough Council, he actually said that in the alternative budget that's put forward by the Conservatives, they weren't going to fund the free parking either. Is that correct? It's just something I'd like to clarify.
The Conservative Party, the Conservative group of Basildon Council did not put forward an alternative budget. I want to make that very clear. It wasn't us that put it forward.
That's true. There was no alternative budget put forward by the Conservatives. That's a factual statement. There was an alternative budget announced at the council meeting, but it wasn't put forward by the Conservative Party. That's factual. Councillor Jeffrey?
Thanks, Chairman. I think with this motion, we're going too far away from the petition that nearly 4,000 residents in Wickford and beyond have signed. And I think we're sort of moving the money round. You know, next week the town council are considering whether they're going to fund it, and I'll leave it up to those on the town council of you to figure out what you're going to do next week. But I just think we can't set ourselves against the petition, and that's what this motion is suggesting. That we've had a very strong public reaction, and they've made recommendations. I mean, my personal view is we should have as much free car parking as possible, and that is, you know, every day of the week and as frequent as possible to support our high street. I didn't think that was negotiable. At least I don't think it is. So I think I'm not satisfied, as Councillor Sargent has said, for the area committee to fund this, because it should be a core service. Because if you look at it, there's roughly about 1.8 million in business rates coming out of Wickford High Street, just the road that's called High Street alone. We take 40% of that. That funds our core services. So with that amount, the 160 odd thousand, you're taking that out of what would be business rates. So you're just, as I'm sure other colleagues will go on to.
Peter to pay
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at. And that's 160 odd thousand out of businesses' coffers that they use to employ local people and things like that. So I think this area committee can't set its face against the petition. And I know Ms Voller has worked diligently to get as much public support as possible. So obviously, dependent upon any colleague wishing to second me, I wish to move that the Wickford Area Committee to pay for 3 hours free car parking on weekdays and maintain free car parking from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays.
So you're amending the motion for 3 hours free parking every day?
No, I said 3 hours, unless I've made a mistake, that,
weekends.
that Wickford Area Committee to pay for 3 hours free car parking on weekends and maintain free car parking from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays.
Are you seconding that?
I am
Councillor?
seconding that, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the costings would be for that, because we haven't, we wouldn't know what we'd be voting for.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we wouldn't know what we were voting for unless we knew what the costings would be for that.
Councillor Myers?
Thank you, Chair. So, as seconding this, obviously, what we've been talking about now is about obviously the revenue that the council wants to bring in. But you have to realise originally, of course, that these car parks were free to use. There was no revenue spend. There was no gain. So, everything that the leader has said, oh, you can fund it yourself, etc., etc. Well, we never needed funding. It was always free. So, what they're asking us to do is to take on board whatever the figures they've got per hour. This is what I come up with, this £15,000 figure from somewhere, based on weekend car parking for 2 hours. The amendment suggests 3 hours, and the evening parking, based on the revenue that has been put forward here, would be maintained to free. So I'm assuming that, I mean, it doesn't make clear in the second point of of the motion, either based on the Ladygate car park, I mean up to 4,500. I am assuming that you haven't put it down explicitly, but this is the 30-minute limit. Right, but that's not written down on there, so that needs to change as well, based on that. However, I did ask this question during my speech at full council, and it wasn't actually answered. So we're talking about paying for 2 hours free parking, or 4 hours free parking cumulatively, or 6, 7 hours, or however many hours people want. And people were putting times on it, 9 till 12, or 12 till 4, etc., in the afternoon. But the machines themselves in the report are going cashless and ticketless. Well, they're going ticketless. That then requires some form of camera system for licence plates. So are there ANPR cameras going up? There was never an answer at full council about that. I did ask that explicit question when they were summing up, and I haven't had an answer back yet, or how they're going to police that. So the argument would be, until we find out how we're actually going to be policing the ticketless car parks, the argument would be that we provide free parking, not at a set time, but for every single car that goes into that car park, whatever time of day, for 2 to 3 hours, and then they go. If they stay longer, they get fined. If they want to stay longer, they pay. But they get their first 2 to 3 hours for free. You're not going to get SEP walking around that car park every day looking at fining people. There must be cameras. That must be what the proposal is going to be doing by making the machines ticketless in the first place. So I find it a bit confusing saying paying for 2 hours free parking when all of the administration and everyone else was saying, if you want to pay free parking from 9 till 12, we're going to have to fund it, which I believe is wrong. It should be from core services, or the town council has to fund and help to top up. Well, that's a different discussion for them. They've got their own precept. But in terms of time limits of when people can park for free, etc., it needs to be clarified on how exactly the parking system is going to work going forwards with this administration's decision to charge on weekends for car parking. I said a couple of times, it needs to be properly clarified about how the monitoring of car parking is going to continue. Again, SEP collects fines across South Essex, and Basildon Council gets a rebate from that every year based on the fines. Sometimes. But it did have a rebate which was going towards a parking strategy. That was because that money can only be spent on car parking. So that money a couple of years ago was being spent on a car parking strategy. Now, didn't see anything in the budget or anything about where the money from SEP was going to be spent. And I think that's another argument that needs to be taken back for clarification. That if the Basildon Council does receive money back from SEP in this financial year, where is that going to be spent? Or from next financial year, where is it going to be spent? Let me finish.
There is no money this year coming back from SEP because I'm the lead officer, so there is no money. I've asked that question at Chelmsford. There is no money this year. There is no rebate.
Let me carry on, please. And then from future years, because obviously last year as well, there was a rebate that came in last year as well. So, I think it was about along the lines of about £146,000.
Yeah, it doesn't seem.
It was about that. That's quite a substantial amount of money for car parking.
Some of that money has been spent on the new machines.
Sorry, Chair, I am still... Sorry. So I agree with Councillor Sargent said in a comment just while my colleague Councillor Jeffrey was saying, taking money from this area committee, which is Basildon Council's money, the residents' money, rather than us providing support to community groups and to infrastructure projects that we want to support, such as pathways, fencing, benches, bins, whatever, that people have said there's a lack of in areas they want to represent. We are being asked to fund revenue for a car park which should be funded from core services. And that's not right. And that's not right at all. So, Chair, I do support this amendment because we're going to have to do it at the end of the day because the administration is going to press ahead with this no matter what. We need to support our residents in order to shop in our high streets in Wickford and, suffice to say, in Billericay as well, to support our high streets and their day-to-day trading. But I think we need more clarification on how these car parks are going to be monitored, and whether or not, if it is going to be cameras, ANPR cameras, for example, for everyone that goes in there, no time of day, but everyone goes in there, has a slot of free parking. That's the only way I can see you monitoring it and actually making the revenue that you think you're going to get. Rather than have it 9 till 12 being free, and you expect people to pay afterwards for whatever, the ANPR system will stop people travelling up to London. I mentioned that in my speech as well. It was an issue with people travelling up to London during the day with free car parking. But having the opportunity for residents to have free parking all day for a certain amount of time should be something that should be considered before we make a decision this evening. I'll leave it there at the moment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sargent?
The last point made by Councillor Myers is what I totally agree with. There's a number of issues here on the monitoring of it, on whether SEP are really paying some money, and on the actual timing and when people go in. I think we need a full report coming to us before any decision is made, so that we are totally aware of having to pay out money that the administration gave to area committees, and it appears that's all changing now, because we've taken to funding the crunches. So every quarter there's a crunch that's now paid for from this committee, yet you've got Councillor McGurran taking all the credit, whereas it's coming from our residents. You know, we are the taxpayers, you know, not the administration. Yes, they've got their say on what goes, but if they want to give area committees a voice, then we're voicing that voice at the moment. And so let us have a proper, true, full report on what the proposal is, because we don't want to let down the people of Wickford or Billericay, because at the end of the day, the points have been well made on the fact that we need to keep those businesses going, because there was enough coming out of the budget yesterday that's going to make them even poorer. So we don't want to be the error of losing their trade because of a measly £20,000, but that should not be coming from this committee's money. It should be coming from the actual council budget. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Councillor Brockman.
Okay, Chair. Right, in paragraph 3 it says here, this is subject to this coming to the next meeting of the Wickford Area Committee in a funding consideration report for deliberation by the committee. So I'm going to ask that we move forward on this, because we're all mostly in agreement anyway, that we make arrangements for another meeting and make sure that the reports come through and we can all go further and just have a discussion on it then when we've got the figures and everything in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Brockman. But we've had an amendment, so we've got to talk to the amendment and vote on the amendment.
We'll do that. We'll skip the amendment and go for this, yeah? I'm better.
Well, we've got to vote on the amendment, because am I right in that? We talk to the amendment, we vote on the amendment, and then, so we've got to discuss the amendment, or we go straight to the vote, but Councillor Jeffrey wants to talk. On the amendment, of course.
Yes, I think, as Councillor Hammond was saying, how much is it going to cost? I don't think this motion doesn't know how much it's going to cost either. It is up to 15,000. It could be £1,000, just an example. 10, 11. We don't know. That's why it's saying up to, and I think it's saying to the funding consideration. I think we should really not be setting ourselves against the petition. As I've said before, I would prefer as much free car parking as possible, but we are where we are. So I just think we should really move with what people have been very clear, at least to me, my constituents have, that we just need to protect our high street, and I think it's a common sense amendment to go for the 3 hours free, and plus that would be such a simple thing to do, to say that we've united as a town to kick back these essentially really poor plans, and I appreciate saying whether Councillor Hammond wants to come back, but I just think this motion doesn't know either, and I just think we have to support the nearly 4,000 residents, and there's even government reports supporting the proposal of free car parking in our towns. So I just think we all really need to come together as a seven to back the petition and back our constituents.
Yeah.
I think it ought to be noted that as well, that Councillor Jeffrey's talking about a petition of 3,500 people, roughly. That a petition only stands as one person, one signature. It's letters in and emails in that count. That is the problem with petitions, and I'm not decrying the effort that Mrs. Foller's done, because I think it's admirable. It really is, and getting all the people to do it. But petitions are really not worth what the paper they're written on. That's the trouble with these things, right? Because the amount of times that I've done something or you've done something, and we get told time and again, don't bother with petition, get everyone to write in separately, do an email, whatever. There are more things like that. So my advice in future is to get people to do that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Allen, before I come in. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think that this committee's budget or allocations should be vulnerable to being drained by this the amount of money that's likely to come from the free parking. So if we vote to support free parking, it's likely that this committee will be drained of funding, because it's a big amount, and we don't really know how much it is, and we don't really know the system of control that the council are going to put on the car park. And in comparison with that, we think that the council ought to fund the free parking to support the businesses, not the area committee.
Thanks for that. The fact is, we've got no administration. We're all in opposition. There's no one here who's administration. The administration have said, apart from Councillor Ferguson over there, but he's not part of the committee. He doesn't get a vote. So I don't know. The reason it's up to 4,500 for the short-term parking and up to 15,000 is because if it doesn't come in on April the 1st and is delayed slightly, then it will be less than that, say, because that is a year's money, we've been told by the officers, So that's where that figure's come from. So we do know how much it is, and that's why it's there, but it's up to, because it could be less than that if it comes in later and is delayed. So that's the reason for that being up to. It won't be £1,000. It'll be probably, if it comes in May or June, if it's delayed, then it will be either 11/12 or 10/12 or however. So, and you're saying 3 hours free parking. Where's that money coming from? If it's not going to come from the area committee, because the administration are not going to pay it. So I can't see where we're coming from. Excuse me, I'm speaking at the moment. Go through the chair and put your hand up if you want to speak. But the thing is, someone's got to pay for the free parking. It's very well Councillor Jeffrey saying we'll have 3 hours free parking, but it's got to be paid for somewhere. So if we're talking to the amendment now, so if no one's got anything else to say, I suggest we vote on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please show. All those against the amendment, please show. So the amendment falls, so we go back to substantive now. So we go back to this. So does anyone want to talk to the substantive motion now? Councillor Myers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just to come back on your point that was just discussed on the amendment about how we're going to fund free parking, you have to remember, of course, that the parking was always free. And I think that needs to be very clear that what this is doing is basically just a revenue exercise for £170,000 a year to fund a I believe in this budget, £39 million revenue budget. Doesn't even touch the size, does it? But how bad are our high streets going to be suffering? Our cafes, our shops, leisure centres, gyms. I mean, I know, talking about, I'm very, obviously at the community centre, that is a council car park. That is going to be absolutely mobbed by people not parking in Wickford main car park and using the Netherden Centre's car park because it is a council car park and it's free. Maximum stay 2 hours. It's going to be mobbed. There's been no thinking whatsoever on these changes about local roads, local car parks. It's not just that, but also in Wickford North, if I may say so, to the roads councillors, the Memorial Park car parks, where especially at Runwell Road, where it's not a particularly long walk to the station. So for charging for or asking us to fund free parking is a correct thing to do based on what the administration wants to do. But it is foresighted. It doesn't take into account the other pressures. It doesn't take into account the off-street parking. And yes, Wickford and Billericay does have residence parking schemes. It does have permits. But they're never enforced, never policed. And I imagine that was the same all the way across the borough in Pitsea, Langdon, Basildon. You're going to see time and time again through this change more car parking in areas and more complaints from residents by doing these changes in the first place. Now, from obviously, I suppose declaration of interest, treasurer of the Wickford Community Association, our guests and everything else use the car park. That car park, we have agreements with the football clubs, we have agreements with certain church groups, etc., to use the car park when we're not particularly busy, so Saturday morning, Sunday morning, etc. That's all going to be taken away. And that is in Councillor Ferguson's remit. Essex Royals use Netherden Park football pitches. They use two and a half pitches down there for their residents to train. You're going to see backs up of parking all the way along Netherden Road, Hyde Way, Wick Drive, every single Saturday because of these charges going in. It's not thought out well. And yes, okay, this committee is under a lot of pressure to now at least give some free parking to the residents of Wickford. But I do need these clarifications around how it's going to be monitored, what times it's going to be, because if it is going to be ANPR, it's automatic to the council, because obviously there was a discussion, I assume it's still going ahead, the CCTV to be monitored 24/7 from an outside organisation or internally. That was something that we put forward, and I believe the Labour administration is still going to be continuing to do, which I think is admirable and should be going on. But it strikes me that trying to make £160,000 or £170,000 out of car parks across the borough will lead to major problems across our estates, our side streets, and even the high street itself with its 6 or 7 different TROs, traffic regulation orders. I can see issues with the elderly, with people parking on pavements through this. I think the area committee does have to fund this to protect those people. It hasn't got a choice. Wish we had, but we don't have a choice. But I hope that the officer and the cabinet member sitting here has taken my points on board and will perhaps relay those concerns, because of course I would assume at some point, once this all comes into effect, there will be scrutiny on it at some point, and we should be looking at evidence across estates of increased parking, increased pavement incursion, increased council car parks which aren't currently metered, but with stay and go for a certain period of time notices, how much more they're being used and how much more they're detracting away from the community centres and parks that those car parks are meant to be used for. So I think we do have to fund this, Mr. Chair, because we have no choice. Not because I like to, but because we have no choice tonight. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Jeffrey?
I will be done. I just think it's a great shame we could have really come together tonight to support essentially a common sense approach to tackling what is an issue of commuter car parking. And the way that it has been presented is the charges will be coming in. We've heard that tonight. So the damage will be partly done, even if it's adjusted part year. And I just think it's a great shame that we could have all come together resolutely and said we want to offer as much free car parking as we can. Because even on the bottom line it says, subject to the funding consideration report. So it would have been worked out. We just can't do back of a fag packet calculations now. So I just think, it was a really missed opportunity, and I'm really disappointed for those high street businesses.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, I would have supported your proposal if there was some sort of idea of what it would cost. Like basically, my the back of a fag packet, if you like, guess at what it would be about 4 times or more what we're talking about on here, which is £20,000. We haven't got that sort of money to fund it. There's no way we could fund 3 hours free parking every day of the week. We just couldn't do it. That's why no point voting for something we can't fund. You have to work out what it's going to cost first to know what you can vote on.
Councillor Sargent?
I think now, Chairman, we should, we've asked, you've said yourself, we've asked for a full report on costings. Everybody's concerned about the cost. To have that thrown at us at the last minute and expect to make a decision, let's wait for a full report to come through from 3 areas that I mentioned earlier, and maybe we can consider that report, not at a committee, but at an informal committee, and see what is actually coming through, so that we can look at what we want to do, because we do not want residents to be let down in any way, shape or form, and it's not us. The burden's being put on us, because if we don't fund it, the residents will turn against us. But it's not us, it's the administration they should be looking towards, and I feel really sorry for them.
Thanks for that. Right, well, as you should know, we've got a motion to vote on, yeah? Basically, them costs were I've done quite a lot of work on that, and them costs come from the officers, and this is subject to a next meeting. So what I intend to do, with the help of the officer, is to get a meeting just on car park charges in the short term. This is time. We've got a time constraint on this. We can't wait for the next meeting, so we're going to have an additional meeting if it passes. We're going to have an additional meeting to discuss just car parking, and I'll get the right officers here to discuss it, because obviously we haven't got the correct. With a full report, please, Chairman. With a full report, yes. Yeah. So if we look at the motion now, we'll get the. If this passes, we'll get how it's going to be monitored, and if there's going to be AMPR. And what I'll say about AMPR, in the Wickford main car park, that's difficult, because you've got Sutton's, Iceland and various other shops who have got delivery. So AMPR is quite difficult in the Wickford car park. So if we can vote on this motion now, all those in favour, please show. All those against? Abstentions? So it's passed. So what we'll do is we've now got to come up with a date of a new meeting. You've got 2 dates, have you? A couple of days?
Yeah, do you want me to?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, but 2 potential dates, the 15th of April or the 22nd of April. Obviously, we can gauge availability from members.
Have we got any preferences on them 2 dates?
Just send a note out and we'll...
Sorry?
Check diary.
If you send a note out and obviously include Councillor Ferguson in it, because hopefully you'll can come to the. Yeah, yeah, and we'll get James. Can we copy James Hendry or Alan Underdown in? Yeah, and we'll. So the motion's passed, so we've got to go on that now. Okay, thank you. That's the end of the meeting.